What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Shadowverse Evolved video. So today we're going to be talking about the Bushi Spring Fest that happened this past weekend in California. And I know most of the people that I've talked to that I've went there or had an experience with Bushi Spring Fest said they had a wonderful time. So I'm glad everybody enjoyed themselves. But they did release the deck list that got top 4 for the 3v3 events. So let's go ahead and look at what individual decks were doing well up there. Alright, so Bushi Spring Fest was a 3v3 event, and I'm going to organize it the best I can. So how I believe that they put it, that this is the first team that got first place, of course, because it's the first one. And this is Seed A. So I'm going to put it down here, if you guys can see it. And it's going to be wonderful. We're going to have a wonderful time and looking at these decks. I'm so excited that we finally have some regionals to look at, and I've been waiting for some competitive Shadowverse play. Alright, so the first deck we're going to be looking at is Pink Floyd's Dragoncraft deck, and I can already tell that Discard Dragons is still here to hate. Even though it didn't really get that many new things, like I'm literally looking at this deck and nothing new is in here. So the fact that Dragons didn't really get like a huge update, but even though like it's still Dragons, so it's still going to be very powerful. So I see that we're rocking 2 of Olivia's. I feel like now, it doesn't feel like we're in a faster meta. I mean, in terms of going against Hero Sword, yes. You're going to be playing against the fast deck. But that's one of the decks that gas out, and they're playing, RNG simulator when they hit heroic entry, because there's potential they don't hit Mock Knight, the times that they could probably draw all the Mock Knights, because I've had that happen to me before. And then, playing Dragoncraft, you're ramping, and then you get to that overflow state pretty well, then Blazing Breath really takes care of every single follower that gets played that same turn. So if you survive that long, which you should, if Hero Sword is in Seed A2, that also matters with the matchups as well. But not drilling too far off, let's go ahead and get back into the deck. But looking at Pink Floyd's deck, yeah, we have the 2 of Olivia's, and then we have 2 of the Rico Kamishito. So it seems like you're gonna have a situation where you're not gonna be playing anything. You've been doing all these ramping, using these spells, and you have nothing on your field. So that's actually pretty good, because your opponent's probably going to build a field maybe after you conflag, and then you get rid of everything. Next turn you can set up with a nice Rico, or you can go into Shenlong if they don't play anything, or even Olivia. So you have a lot of top end things to do here. And then to finish it off, you have the 3 of the Babe herself, the Dragon Forte, which I don't believe is ever gonna go anywhere for the next couple of sets. This is a strong card, and it's just so amazing. And then we have Ogre Cap, just to have the consistency. And peeking at the Evo deck, of course, we have the 1 of Bellringer, the Dragon Tamer, which I believe isn't in the previous other dragon list I've seen. This helps with just filter through your deck. And then you have the Dragon Warrior, and then Forte, of course, Shenlong, and then the carrots for Ogre Cap. So I played against someone on the Discord, and they had 2 carrots in their Evo deck. And if you're gonna run Ogre Cap, it's just instant 3. Just run 3. It doesn't hurt, but it doesn't really hurt to run 3 carrots to get that full effect. So if you're running Ogre Cap, I know this is just probably redundant to you, but please run 3 carrots. Let's get the full value out of your cards, guys. Alright, so this is the Seat B for the first place team, and we have Oki's Swordcraft deck. And so looking at it, it looks like it's Hero Sword, and of course Hero Sword is probably the strongest version of Sword right now because it just plays so fast. And then you use your Gem Staff Commander to play off of Heroic Entry, or play it off of Amelia too. Just ways you can play things, so many free things, and get so many things out, and you can really rush your opponent down. Now the hard part is when you get into that mid range and your opponent clears your board, and then you have to leave your followers up, and you don't really have much of a hand. That's really where it gets into the I need to hold back and really swing for something big. But in terms, Swordcraft does have some top end things. So let's say your opponent's stuck at 5 and you really can't get to them. So you can just sit back and wait until 8 and get to Narita Bryan if you're able to survive. Or if you want to go for a more mid-range game, into Leonidas, if you want to just stack cards in your hand, like you can't get the Valiant Fencer Evo to go the way you want it to, you could really go for Leonidas. So there's many routes that you can go, even when you play Hero Sword. It's not just, hey, I'm focusing on Heroic Entry. You can definitely switch into a different play style and be like, all right, well, I'm going to catch them when they're lacking, and I'm going to swing for a whole bunch. So that's what I love about Swordcraft. It's just so flexible. All right, and peering off into their Evo deck, we have the 2 of Amiro Spear Knights. Mostly when you're running Hero Sword, a bunch of these heroic followers are going to take up most of your Evo deck, because you need the 2 of Amiros to, get the free heroic card out of your cemetery. You need the 2 Mock Knights just because, there's removal in terms of a card that might have Storm as well. You definitely need Valiant Fencer to get the free Evo on the heroic follower. And then sometimes, that just depends, if you run Leonidas, of course you need your one Leonidas, and then if you're running Floor Fencer, of course you run Floor Fencer, so run 2 of those. So that really has the only flex spot of maybe 1 or 2 cards, and you're like, all right, well, what am I gonna put in here? And I see that, okay, put in Ccho, and that's not bad, because when she evolves, she's a Storm follower, and then she also does damage to the field depending on how many followers are on the field, which you can spam out a whole bunch with the heroic engine. All right, moving on, we have the C seat for the first place team, and we have Uma. So looking at this now, we are now seeing that Uma can still hang. So I've played Uma, I'm finally catching up on what these decks do and really how strong they were. I feel like when I was doing them last time, I was kind of talking out of my butt. But I finally experienced all the powers of these decks. I finally was able to get around to, play testing and seeing what they can do. And I can see that Uma's still pretty powerful. These cards can really sneak up on you. That's one thing I've learned about Uma. It's you play that die with Scarlet, that die with Styx, and these cards really can sneak up on you. You leave that Narita top road as a 4/4. All right, well, guess what? If I'm going to 5, guess what's gonna happen? Daiwa and Vodka, and it's just scary. It's just very scary. And then those followers just get out of hand too quickly. Vodka potentially becomes a 6 if you use Flowers for You on her. She has that rush. And then if you're able to use all those spells, then you can give something else Storm. But that's not usually how it goes. Alright, so one thing that really stuck out to me was the 3 of Narita Brian. So this is a very big card. So, taking the fact that you're really playing off of what's on the top of your deck with Uma, it's a little scary. So let's say, I'm on turn 2, and then I play Special Week, and then I see Narita Brian. I mean, I have to add the card into my hand just to get some recursion, but this is the dead card in my hand for 6 turns. So that's the really scary thing, but I believe the reason why they ran 3 of it was because they're running 3 of Rise Shower, and you could mill anything with those 2, and then you can get anything back off of her Last Words, depending on what deck you go against, that is. So shout out to everyone who got in first place on, Terry's Musketeers. I forgot to announce, yes, I'm going to announce the names now, I'm so sorry. But this is a first place group, Terry's Musketeers, pretty interesting name, and they did pretty good. I like everybody's deck list, and congratulations. I don't think you get anything crazy. I'm not sure in terms of pricing for BSF, but congratulations. I hope you guys enjoy your prizing. I don't think it gets you a finals invite or anything like that, but if it does, congratulations, and I hope you do well up there. All right, moving on to the second place team, we have Scrambled Eggs with Herb, and we have Ccho's Swordcraft deck. A lot of Dragoncraft cards for this Swordcraft deck. So it looks like it must have been a typo. So yet again, we're seeing Seat A with a whole bunch of Dragoncraft. So it seems like Dragoncraft is not out of the meta at all. This deck is still very strong. It has crazy top end, just ramping and being ahead of your opponent. It's just always just better than whatever your archetype is. If I'm ahead of you and you're still, back in, 1955, I'm over here in the 2000s, get with it, old man. That's what it feels like with Dragons, because you're just playing lots of big things very quickly, and your opponent has to really adjust. Or, if you one of those decks like Abyss Aggro or Hero Sword that can get under this deck while they're still ramping, then you're in for the money. But we have a golden card called Dragon Warrior that can really handle these things, and in the late game we have Shenlong. Thankfully it's not at 3, but we have Shenlong to recur some of that health that we lost in the early game. So we're seeing mostly a lot. The only thing that's really different is Erd, and I advise everyone to pick up this card, because when we get into more of the single type regionals, this is going to be the golden card if you're running against that Fable deck. And honestly, if your deck doesn't have removal in it, then this is honestly just not a bad card to just get rid of a big follower. It's not bad. But not trailing off too much, we have the Seat A, and this is a pretty solid Dragoncraft deck. Shout out to getting second place in Seat A, and let's figure out what is in Seat B. All right, and next up we have Tatter's Uma B seat deck. So looking at it already, I see that they're running the Mayano Top Gun. So Mono Top Gun is pretty good because if you have, you know, at least 5 Uma cards in your cemetery, it gets that +2. And the fact that it has Rush, you know, it's going to die if it swings into something. So you might as well make some use of it. So let's say your opponent wards up with something. Well, Mono Top Gun is a definitely good one drop to just take care of something and swing into it, get rid of it, and then, you know, start swinging with the other followers that have already been on the field since last turn. Another difference I'm seeing is the Meijiro Dober. So this is actually a pretty good card. So if you're going against like Hero Sword or something like that, you play this for 2, and then if you're going second, you can heal for 2, get some life back, or just some sort of recursion so you can heal and get some of your life back after taking so much damage, because you are one of the slower decks. You are a very slow deck. So getting some health back is very nice. I think this is like, that's the Unicorn Dancer Unica for Uma, essentially. And then the main like key difference that I'm seeing is the Tazuna Hayakawa. So this is very good recursion, very good recursion. So for 6, she's a ward, and then when she's played, you select the Uma follower or Uma amulet from your cemetery that costs 4 play points or less, and put it onto your field. So there are cards like Silent Suzuki you can get back, Die with Scarlet, anything that costs 4 or less. The only 2 cards you're not getting essentially are the spell cards and the Narita Brian and Ogre Cap. So out of everything in your deck, that's pretty good. So a huge shout out to Tatters in Seat B for, you know, when you're in Seat B, just a little competitive analysis if you guys haven't done a 3v3. I think Seat B is usually the person that's able to know what both decks do on the left and the right. So, you know, you can help your friends out, especially, you know, after you win your game and you're watching your opponents, you got to look at 2 other decks, you know, like, so what's going on in both those games. So you got to really multitask. So I think being in Seat B, you have to have both knowledge on like a lot of decks. So that's just how I see it. You know, Seat A is playing the strongest deck. Seat C is probably playing one of the weaker decks, or not essentially a weak deck, but one of the weaker decks, or, you know, probably a weaker player. I'm not sure how your teams have done it, but when I did it for Dragon Ball, then that's how it really was. So if you're in Seat B, you know, you have to really focus. All right, moving on into Seat C for the 2nd place team, we have Sakana's Dragoncraft deck. It looks like there was that typo, so it looks like it's Sakana's Forcecraft deck. So looking at it right now, just on the top end, it doesn't seem that interesting, but it looks like it really revolves around Tweedledee and Tweedledum. So the Tweedledee and Tweedledum Evo, when it evolves, you look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a card that costs 1 play point from among them and add it to your hand, and then you put the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. So look at all these 1-drops you're able to get off of that. You can get Actress Faria, Bellringer, Elfchild Main, Nature's Guidance, and then Harvest Festival. These are cards that are really good you want to get, and they help just build up into the Silverbolt into the later turns. And the fact that, you know, you play Tweedledee and Tweedledum and then the Evo, and you get that card to basically essentially replace him if you hit the 1-drop. And then potentially, if you're in those early games, you hit that Harvest Festival into Ancient Elf, and you're just drawing cards from there. So that's really what it looks like for Forcecraft. All right, looking into this Evo deck, it's not anything too crazy. We just have the Bellringer, Ancient Elf, the Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and then we have the Silent Suzuka, and then we have some carrots. So that's really what tops it off. So congratulations for Scrambled Eggs with Herbs for 2nd place. And if there's any certain prizing for 2nd place too, congratulations and good luck with that. All right, moving on to 3rd place, we have You Drop This L, and this is a Zero Cool's Seat A Forcecraft deck. So this is the first Forcecraft Beauty and the Beast that we're seeing, or Fable Force, however you want to say it. So let's go ahead and do a little deep dive into this deck. All right, so I want to go ahead and apologize to you guys for this future audio. I might have some noise in the background. That's people doing things outside. There's some renovations going on. So I'm sorry, I can't help that. But let's go ahead and get into the deck. So we're seeing that we're rocking the 3-up Beauty and the Beast. Of course, that's something we need. But I am liking the fact that we're rocking Sheikah Windy, you know, something you can play in the early turns or even in the mid game. It can help you when you do Woodland Band, so you're not just sitting there looking at random things. And then, you know, of course, we run the 3 of Alice, because that's what we need. And then, you know, from then on there, like, you're just doing normal Fable things. You know, you're using Ancient Elf to bounce Woodland Band back, and then potentially hitting Beauty and the Beast. You're trying your best to get counters through Alice and whatnot. It's just a whole bunch of things going on with Beauty and the Beast. But some extra removal that's in the decks that I'm seeing is I'm seeing the 1 Elf Child main. Usually this is probably a card that you give up because you know you're running the 3 of Actress, and then you know you might be using the 3 of Bellringer, so you know having another 1-drop usually isn't that too cool because you know you have the Flower Princess. But you know this is still nice to have just for an essential combo piece that you might need for Crystalia Tia. And I still see that we're rocking Nature's Guidance. I feel like this also helps with the bounce. But the one thing I am seeing that we're missing is the Marvelous Sunday. So they're probably thinking to themselves, well, you know, if I'm gonna have a whole bunch of 2-drops in my hand, that's, you know, eventually it's gonna get too expensive. So let me just rock Nature's Guidance, you know, keep drawing cards, seeing what I can get. Because the one thing I feel in the Beauty and the Beast line of this deck is that your hand size isn't very big, or from at least what I tested. I've only tested the Beauty and the Beast Swordcraft once, and I didn't even have Alice. So I was running a really budget version of it. So the fact that you can really help with what the deck really lacks in, and that's draw power, unlike, you know, the Silver Bolt. So that's really what you need in this deck. All right, moving on into the Evo deck, of course, we have the 2 of Alice's, and then, you know, the 1 Bellringer, 2 Ancient Elves, 2 Crystalia Lily for removal, the 1 Crystalia Tia just in case, you know, for the Eve token, and then 2 of the Silent Tezuka. Pretty wraps it up nicely. So shout out to you drop this L for seat A, and let's go ahead and figure out what is in seat B. Alright, so looking at B seat, we have Skaz's B seat Havencraft deck. So what I can see already is what I spotted from a mile away is Alana's Prayer. So if you don't know what Alana's Prayer does, so when you play it, it doesn't do anything. But once per turn, when your leader gains defense, you give each follower on your field +1/+1. So things like Dark Offering and, you know, Fallen Angel, and then Curate, and then Kaguya's Evo. But I feel like what really brought this combo together was probably Olivia, because, you know, once you get into that late game and you have all those cards on the field, and then you just smack down Olivia because you're trying to recur some life. Because what you're going for, if they're swinging for you a whole bunch, which they should in Havencraft, because once you get into that late game, you know, you're going to have all your followers removed and stuff like that. You're going to want to heal your life back. So I'm going to have Alana's Prayer on the field if you don't answer it, which would be a waste of a card to answer Alana's Prayer. Honestly, you know, because you're just going to be focusing on the followers to get rid of. So you have to make a choice, and it's going to be a very hard choice. Do I lose like so much value getting rid of Alana's Prayer, or do I just take care of the followers that are already beefed up and that are becoming 6/6 or even 5/5s or 4/4s? Like, you know, do I have the spell to get rid of it? So it's really a hand-in-hand thing. So, you know, you set up with Alana's Prayer, and then in those later turns you drop Olivia, and then you buff your whole entire like board, and then you start swinging. So that's very scary. But seeing that we still have some new cards that came out of set 3, we're rocking the Princess Snow White. This is a pretty good card to drop on turn 2 if your opponent doesn't have a way to remove it. I mean, even if they do, on the next time you play it, it's going to be a 3/3. And then, you know, with Alana's Prayer, she can become a 4/4 potentially, with all the stat lines you might be getting through healing. And one thing that they're also rocking is the Will Overtake, just so they can see what's on the top 3 of their deck. A very good control card. Don't sleep on this card. If you're still running Sacred Plea, I mean, Sacred Plea is nice, you know, to get a card in your hand, but honestly, having more deck knowledge is more important to me. And especially for me, I rock the Gold Ship line of Havencraft, but it's very, very bad. It's very meme. So if I ever wanted to build a serious Havencraft deck, I would probably look in Skaz's line, because if Alana's Prayer is playable, that is a very beautiful card. So I would definitely like to rock that version of it. Alrighty, and we're gonna get a look at this Evo deck. So we're rocking the 3 of Fallen Angels. You know, it's a pretty good reward card to heal to. And then, you know, when he's played, he replaces himself on the unevolved version of himself. Rocking 2 John d'Arcs. This card is still very nice. 2 Priest of Codrils, and then 2 Kaguyas, and then 1 Bellringer. So nothing too crazy. It's definitely some Havencraft things. I think though, what really just takes away from it, or what really brings it all together, is the Fallen Angel Evo. That's really what's different from other Havencraft builds, because you're running the Alana's Prayer. So of course, why wouldn't you want a follower that heals on Evo? Alright, moving on to CC, we have our very own Burn 1 Katori's Uma deck. So yet again, I feel like it's amazing that we see so many players, and I love when content creators top, because unfortunately, you know, I'm not going to be able to participate in these regionals, but you know, the people that can, I love it when they top, and they also make content, so they have so much love for the game, and I love that you guys love the game as much as I do. But go ahead, getting into the deck, we're seeing that Kit is running a bunch of different things. Like, this is definitely a spicy Uma deck. Like, we're running the 3 of Gold Ship. Like, that's just insane. Like, we're running 3 of Gold Ship. But I think what puts it all together is this 10-drop. We've got the close-knit ambitions. So you shuffle your deck, and then you reveal the top 6 cards of your deck. You may put any number of Uma followers or Uma amulets from among them onto your field. And you add the remaining cards to your hand. So you play the spell, and then you especially fill up your field with Uma followers. So, you know, you do all your nice things. You make sure you see this. Honestly, what I see that would be like pretty like janky and stuff like that would be the Willed Overtake. That'd be probably a good addition to this deck. But you know, the Shinka Windy is still a nice card for a 1-drop, so you can have something on the field. Look at the card in your hand. You know, if it's the 10-drop or if it's something like, you know, like Gold Chip or Narita Bryan, like, just go ahead and put them on the bottom. Like, you don't need them right now. So I like the spice on the like top end there. All right, and looking at the mid game, we have some pretty crazy things. So we have the Die with Scarlet to get the spells. Obviously, you're going to use these spells to like get rid of these guys as fast as possible. You want to clear your opponent's board so you can get into your 10-drop, so you can play all your little crazy things for free. I love this deck. I absolutely love this deck. This is so different. It's so crazy how different this deck is, because usually I'm seeing Uma, you know, people are either playing, you know, the 7 centimeters ahead. No one runs like the one of, like, I would say SCR, and that's like the Dragon Ball terms of like the ultimate that you can run in the deck. Like, it's just amazing. Like, you play this, and it was like, I just wonder what the success rate was on it, because if you really got it, I would have just shook your hand so well. I would have been like, dude, that is a awesome Uma deck, because no one else is doing that. I don't see anyone else doing this. And the fact, like, it's just straight memes. Like, when you see Gold Chip, I feel like this is my favorite card, Gold Chip, because that's what I run in my Havencraft deck. This is such a meme card, because if you hit something crazy big, then your opponent, like, just lost to something. Like, it's just like, why? How did I just lose? It just, I feel like your opponent has to respect you if they lost to this. All right, but enough glazing over Kit's deck. This is an absolutely amazing deck. I feel like the way you put it together was pretty spicy and new. The fact that Close-Knit Ambitions is something you rock with, I just love it. Seeing Gold Chip and Narita Bryan, these things are just game-ending cards. So getting into them as fast as possible, you know, even though you're only going up by 1 each turn, but trading into your opponent's followers to make sure they don't go for like a crazy end game is pretty nice. But let's go ahead and peek at this Evo deck. So we got the 3 of Agnes, the 2 of Special Weeks, and then we have the 1 Merzenski, of course, for the 1 of Indec, and then we have 4 Carrots, and then we're rocking the expensive Runecraft leader. I believe this is the most expensive Uma leader. I believe so. We'll check it in the next Market Watch Wednesday, but I believe this is the most expensive leader so far. So shout out to You Drop This L for getting 3rd place, and you know, I hope you enjoyed your prizing. Like I said, I don't know if there's any sort of like finalist sort of entry into it, but you know, congratulations guys. All right guys, well that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. You don't know how much it means to me that you're still here and rocking with me and kicking with me every day. You know, I love you guys so much. All right, make sure you're safe in whatever you do tonight and safe whatever you do for the rest of the year. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I gave you all my love, baby, my heart is cold when you're around. You warm it up, liquid gold, baby, yeah, you warm it up, liquid gold, baby, and my affection, all that paper you wasted. Take my love.